So what am I going to talk about in today's this FB Live? Basically, I'm going to talk about, first I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why I think women generally leave a man. So if you're live at this moment, you're watching this, I want you to keep writing, keep asking, keep responding to the questions that I'm going to ask. So the whole objective is to understand and look deep inside. If your wife has left you, why did she really leave you? But before I talk about it, I'm going to give you the specific 3 reasons. But before I do that, I want you to ask yourself this simple question. The question is, am I willing to listen to the truth? Am I willing to listen to the truth? That is a very important question you got to ask yourself. Because if you're a kind of person who is closed and who is not willing to listen to the truth, then this life is not for you. Because what's going to happen to you is you're going to listen to it with the filter of I am right and she is wrong and she needs fixing. The question is not about who needs fixing. The question is, how can I get back? How can we have an awesome marriage? How can we fall in love with each other again? So if you're a kind of person who has the blinders on, then you will not learn anything. But you're a kind of person who wants to understand deep inside, then this FB Live is for you. So let me talk about what really happens in a marriage. So you start on a right note, you come together, and once you come together, there is something that goes wrong. And the sad part is you try to fix it the wrong way. If you agree with it, just write in the comments, agree. You try to fix it the wrong way. If you try to fix it the right way, probably you would have had much more love, much more care, much more understanding. There would have been so much of connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why generally a woman leaves. But I want you to look at these reasons from a higher perspective. Many of you would be saying to yourself, no, actually what happened was I did not do anything and one day this happened. She got angry at me for this particular reason and she left. But the actual reason is there's something that happened before that. There's something that was cooking as days went along. So let me start with the first reason. And this is a very common reason in a lot of the relationships. The first reason is this. After honeymoon, you got busy. That was the first reason. So you got married. There was a honeymoon period. You spent lakhs of rupees on your wedding, lakhs of rupees on your honeymoon. And once that was over, you said to yourself, marriage is finished with. So one episode of my life is done with. It is just like 3 years of college, I finished with college. Then I joined this company, internship, 6 months of internship, I finished with internship. So you looked at your marriage as wedding as the marriage. Correct me if I'm wrong, just write in the comments, true or not. And once that wedding got over, you got back into your old ways of doing things. And if your wife was working, then probably she got back into her old ways. So in other words, what happened was 2 people came together, spent some time together, and then they went back into living their old lives. So after honeymoon, you got busy. Now there is something that happens many a times is that the woman is a carer or caretaker of relationships. This is an evolutionary process. For time immemorial, where the man went out to hunt, the woman took care of the house and all the relationships. She made sure that all the relationships within the family were knit together. And because of that, many a times she got upset when you did not give enough importance to your relationship. So she got upset. And when she got upset, she told you about it. But what did you do? Let's be really honest. you said to yourself, what's the most important thing in life is money, because if I have money, I'll have everything. If I have this job, I'll have everything. You said to yourself, career is more important than anything else. So you made career, money, or your car, or your gym, your exercise, your friends more important than love in the relationship. And many a times, that is the first reason why things fall apart. And once that happened, your wife tried to fix it. And the only way your wife knows how to fix it is basically it's two ways. One, she kept telling you, and you called it as nagging. She kept telling you, things are not going right, things are not going right, things are not going right. She gave you enough hints to let you know that things are not going right. And you did not pay attention. And research says that happens to most men. One fine day, when they wake up and the wife says, I'm leaving you, that's when they realize that, their wife is actually leaving them. Until then, they don't realize that. So once she started trying to fix it, either you became defensive or you started shouting back. In either ways, after some time, she stopped fixing. In other words, she stopped telling you, this is what's happening, that is what's happening, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not there on time, and you're not helping, you're not paying attention to my family. And somewhere along the way, she stopped saying that. And when she stopped saying that, you felt good that, now she's not saying anything to me. So probably things have fallen in place. And then it's called calm before the storm. Then the storm came into the life. And just be really honest and tell me, can you resonate with what I'm saying out here? If you resonate with what I'm saying, just write in the comments, resonate. If you agree with what I'm saying, just write agree. There is no shame in accepting what we did wrong. Because when we accept, that means we are having a moment of realization. So even if you're watching the recording, write in the comments, I resonate with it, or just write resonate. So this is the first reason. The second reason could be that you have an outdated hardware. And what do I mean by outdated hardware? That means the mindset that you have, just the way I had it. And where did I get it from? I got it from my parents. I got it from the community that I came from. I got it from the movies. And what is that mindset? That mindset said that, and that was an outdated mindset. 50 years ago, a man could think like that and get away with the marriage. 50 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, but not today. But what did you do and what did I do? And I realized it, thank God I realized it well on time, that the hardware that I had out here was outdated. And let me break this down into helping you to understand what do I mean by that. The first thing is, the first few months of the relationship or marriage are really crucial, because that's where we are trying to figure out where we belong. And the wife is, asking herself, does my husband respect me? Does my husband care about me? Does my husband think about me? And there are so many things she's paying attention to figure out, do I really matter to him? Do I really matter to him? And remember, she has been also grown up with an outdated hardware. That means she has grown up with the fear that men are not nice, or all men are the same. And when she got into the relationship, she asked herself, is my man different from all the other men that I know? And where did she got that idea from? Has she met all the men in the world? No, she got that idea from looking at her dad, looking at her uncle, looking at all those perverts in her college days who made fun of her, looking at the man in the bus who was peeping over her to see her body parts. That's where she got that idea. And she wanted to find out whether her man was different from all those men. And what happens to us men is we got this thing of, men should not become wife slaves. Juru ka gulam. Superiority feeling like I am better than my wife. Men don't do certain things like we don't wash vessels, we don't wash clothes, we don't do this, we don't do that. And we behaved like our dad did. We behaved like our uncle did. And we thought to ourselves that if they can get along or get away with doing things, probably I will get away with doing these things. But the truth is, we are living in a whole new era. We're living in a world which is very different from the life they lived. It's not about right and wrong. It's about what is functional. We're not looking at the computer that they had 20 years ago and we say that was a bad computer. It's not the point. The point is, if I want to function today, do I use that old computer? Do I buy that old computer or do I buy a new one, which has much more memory or much more sophisticated? So probably you had that outdated mindset and that came out very strongly in your relationship where I'll give you a lot of importance, a lot of examples and be really honest and tell me, is it true? Where your family came first and her family came probably third or fourth or fifth or sixth. For you, your work came first and her work came probably fifth. You said to yourself that kitchen is her department and if I'm doing something, I'm doing a favor to her. And what did I prove by doing that? I proved to her that I am like all those men she knows of and those men that she hates. Am I making sense to you, gentlemen? Just write in the comments, making sense. And when that happened, she said, I don't want to be with this man. And she didn't have to be with this man because 40 years ago, when your mom stayed in the marriage, even though she was hurt, even though she felt belittled, even though when her mother-in-law made her feel less of her, put her down, humiliated her, and her husband did not stand by her, she did not have a choice. I'm not talking about your mother, but the people of that generation. She did not have the choice to get out of that marriage and walk out and live an independent life. She did not have that choice. And what did I do? I behaved like my dad or my uncle. The other thing was I behaved like the way I behaved with my mom. Now, this is something really important that I want us to understand. We look at a mom as all giving, all forgiving. I can do whatever I want to. I can go for the movie, come home late, and she'll not say anything to me. ठीक है, चलता है. And I thought that that's how my wife is going to be. I can do whatever I want to, and she'll not say anything. So I did not pay attention to her. And she said, I don't want to live with this man. I just don't want to live with this man. Let me leave and live a life that is, without all this pain. So the second thing could be that you have an outdated hardware. And she hated that outdated hardware. That the manly thing that you think is manly. But if you realize being manly is being a gentleman, that's what it means. So if you look at this, the name of this group is Strong Husbands. Strong husbands are not husbands who are scared of feelings. Strong husbands are husbands who are so strong that they can stand by a feeling and not cringe. When their wife cries, they can stand with her, putting their hand around her, saying that you can cry as much as you want to, and I'll be with you. I'll be with you. Not husbands who get very uncomfortable with their woman crying, telling her, stop, 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 enough is enough. And when I say strong husbands are the ones who have the guts. I'm using the word guts to say sorry instead of defending themselves. That's what being a strong husband is. Who are the people who defend themselves? Who are not strong. People who are strong acknowledge that I made a mistake. And there are two ways you can say sorry. One way is to shut somebody up. Now that sorry does not count. That when we are looking at the brain, when a sorry is said like that, I'll give you an example of this. Okay, sorry, I told you sorry, just shut up and enough. No more talking, just shut up. Now that's one kind of a sorry. And do you think your wife will think that that's an actual sorry? Just write in the comments yes or no. Do you think that your wife will say, wow, that was amazing, he said sorry to me and I forgive him? Doesn't. She doesn't. That sorry is a way of defending yourself and way of making her feel miserable about herself for saying whatever she said. She doesn't care. The second kind of sorry is genuinely that comes from your heart. So the reason number two is I had that outdated software and I had to really fight against that belief, that old belief I had about marriage, about women, about being a man, about being a husband. The third one, gentlemen, is a really important one. The third one is advice from wrong people. Advice from wrong people. And I cannot emphasize more on this. And what do I mean by advice from wrong people? Just give me a moment. Let me just go down. Yes. So what do I mean by advice from wrong people? One is when we have some problem, who do we go to? We go to people who are married, okay, generally, because we think that they know better than us. So there are two kinds of people we go to. The first kind of people are those who married a few decades ago. So I might go to my mom and, because I'm very close to my mom, I start telling her that this is what happened and this is what she did and this is what she said. And when I say that, because she's connected with me and she feels a sort of affection towards me, she starts supporting me instead of saying that you need an expert to help you. Instead of saying that, you know what, there is something that you need to do. She's going to say something like, oh, your wife, she got too much of pride, that's why. She's going to say, nowadays the girls are, they don't have any commitment. They just think about their job and they focus on it. Or she'll say something like, you know what you should do is go to our house and tell our mother and tell our father, this is what she's doing. And tell them to convince her, tell her to change her ways. Does that happen, gentlemen? Just write in the comments, does. If it does, just write in the comments, does. And they're not giving you that kind of advice, not because they don't love you. It's because that's what worked 40 years ago. Not to bring people together, not to bring love into the relationship, not at all. It worked 40 years ago, 30 years ago to put people back into the relationship. That's all. And people thought that if you are together, marriage is successful. Doesn't matter how much pain people went through, how much people fought, doesn't matter. So the first thing is advice from wrong people. That is people who are married 30, 40 years ago. When you have, I'll give you two examples. When you have a backache, do you go to your mom for advice or do you go to an orthopedician? You go to an orthopedician. When your phone doesn't work, do you take it to your mom and ask her to fix it? Or do you take it to a service center? You take it to a service center. Because in your head, you're saying, they don't know it. So with everything else, When you got married, you did not get married. Probably there were certain traditions you followed of your parents, but when you got married, you did not get married the exact way they got married. You got married according to the traditions and customs that were followed in the 21st century. Maybe they were handed down so many years, but you followed those customs and traditions. Like today, probably they came in a bullock cart, okay, for the wedding. Probably they got married in the house. Probably they didn't have caterers. They had people coming together and cooking. But why didn't you follow that custom? Because you said to yourself, it's not a marriage 40 years ago, it's marriage today. When you went for the honeymoon, I don't think they ever went for the honeymoon. But you went. And probably if they went, probably they went to Tirupati or Velankani or some of the religious places. Probably. But you went to Thailand or Thailand or Bali or any of these places. Why? Because with your marriage, with your wedding, you're modern. But with your marriage, you're outdated. So the first thing is those who married few decades ago. The second kind of people, you could be asking advice. And now you know that asking these people only makes your marriage miserable. Otherwise, your wife wouldn't have left you. Is those in mediocre or miserable marriages. And research says that there could be a lot of people who are married today. In the US and other countries, Western countries, that number is very less. In India, overall is about, if 100 people get married, about 97 people stay in the marriage. In the cities, if 100 people get married, the number is much less who stay in the marriage for a considerable number of years. In the US, it is, if 100 people get married, 50 people stay in the marriage. The point that I'm trying to make is this. It's not about how many people stay in their marriage. The point is how many people are genuinely in love with their partner in their marriage. Genuinely in love. They are in a very deep friendship in their marriage. And the answer is very, very few. Very few. And you know that by all the jokes we have. Every joke about marriage is negative. It says that husband and wife cannot be friends. They are arch enemies. So when you go to people who are in a mediocre or miserable marriage, what advice can they give you? They're going to tell you things that don't work. They don't work. Is that making sense to you? Just write in the comments, yes, if it is making sense. So these are the three reasons. So I want you to write in the comments right now, what was, if you have to prioritize these, and if you have to choose the topmost reason, what was that? Is it that after honeymoon period, you got busy? Or is it the second one? Just write in the comments. Write in the comments. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. The second one is you have an outdated hardware. That's why, and she would have told you that. No, you behave like all the other men. And that meant that you have an outdated hardware or advice from wrong people. So one is after honeymoon, you got busy. Two is you have an outdated hardware. Or three, advice from wrong people. Write in the comments, is it 1, 2, or 3? I want to see some comments coming in. Good, good. So now, if you have understood this much, now let's come to the next part. Next part is really important. And in the next part, I'm going to talk about the 3 shouldn'ts and 6 should if you want to get back. If you want to get back. The first shouldn't is thinking of getting someone better. It means your mind will be keep thinking of this thought. If your wife has left you and you're not talking to each other, your mind will say, why don't you go to, what's that app Tinder, right? Why don't you go to Tinder? I hope I'm saying the right one. And swipe right for some of the pretty women you see over there. Why don't you go to Facebook and look for somebody? Your mind will play these games with you, and it will play the game because you think that if I marry somebody else, if I find somebody else just not like the woman I got married to, things will be all good. And I'm sure this, if you are separated, this thought would have crossed your mind. Then let me be really honest in telling you this. That is the biggest mistake you can make. Because two reasons. The first reason is, no matter who you get married to, your marriage hits a phase where things become difficult. And they're supposed to get difficult, and that's a good thing. And earlier you hit in your marriage this phase, it's better. Because when you hit this phase, there is an opportunity for you to turn your marriage around from no love to mature love. So it's a really good thing. Really, really good thing. So the first thing is, no matter who you get married to, you'll hit this phase. Think about your own wife. You did not get married, or your marriage was not like this at the initial stage of your marriage. Otherwise, you wouldn't have got married to this person, right? So your marriage was really beautiful. And now the next person you get married to, obviously your marriage is going to be really beautiful until you hit this phase. And once you hit this phase, it's going to be like the old one. And that's the reason in the US, the divorce rate for the first marriage is 50%. The divorce rate for the second marriage is 67. The divorce rate for the third marriage is 74. Because we are constantly looking for somebody who is perfect. So the first marriage did not work. Blame my partner and look for somebody else. Second marriage did not work. Blame my partner, look for somebody else. Third marriage did not work. Blame my partner, look for somebody else. And you will never find that perfect person. And do you want to know why? Just write why in the comments, and I'll tell you why. Why you will never ever find that perfect person. It's because there is no perfect person. There's no perfect person. If that person is perfect, then you're marrying a goddess. And I don't think there are any goddesses around. There are no goddesses around. When we feel, I'm going to talk in depth about it, when we feel loved, that's where the person becomes perfect. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. It is not that you marry a perfect person. It is when you bring love into the relationship, that person becomes perfect. Do you agree? Just write agree in the comments. And that was the reason at the initial stages of your marriage. You know why did you find that person perfect? It's because there was love there. There was love. Maybe it was driven by the hormones, the chemicals, all that, but there was love. You felt absolutely loved by the other person. She felt absolutely loved by you. And even if there were imperfections, you did not focus on them because there was love. Is that making sense to you? If it is true, just write true in the comments. So that is the first thing, that you will not find somebody perfect. Though you find somebody perfect, there's a time where everything falls apart. And if you don't fix it, it's back to square one, guys. The second thing is this. I'll explain this to you through a story. There was a village, and this guy came into the village and he wanted to stay in that village. So as he was walking into the village, he was a tourist, by the way. So he walked into the village, and as he was walking into the village, he asked this wise man who was sitting at the entrance. He said, "How are the people in this village? How are they?" He said, how are the people in the previous village that you're coming from? And the gentleman said, oh, the people in the previous village were cunning, dishonest, aggressive. They were not at all likable. They were rude. And the wise man said, it's same out here. The people of this village too are rude, cunning, dishonest, not good people. So this tourist went on. The second tourist came along. Same question. The second tourist asked the man, how are the people of this village? And the man said, how are the people in the village you're coming from? He said, wow, he says, the people from the village I'm coming from, they're really wonderful people, really genuine, very loving, very giving, very caring. They're the most best people I've met. And the wise man says, same out here. The people of this village are very caring, loving, giving, understanding, amazing people. I hope you got the moral of the story. It's not about how the person is, it's about how you are. So if you could not handle the first marriage and things fell apart, then what can you expect in the second marriage? So don't go with the assumption that if I marry somebody else, things will be better. It's the same you, unless there is some transformation that has happened in yourself. And that's why people get into one marriage, things fall apart, they get into second marriage, things fall apart, and it's not about the other person, it's about how I am. There's a saying that people behave not the way they are, the way I am. Am I communicating that with you? Is that making sense? If it is making sense, just write MS or making sense. So don't think of getting someone better. You will not get someone better. If you could not make this marriage a loving marriage, and you did not learn the skills to do it, then forget about it. It's a big temptation, by the way. It's a really big temptation if you're separated to find somebody better. The second thing is, this is a big one. This is a big one. And if you have done it, you know it, that this is the biggest mistake you can do. Tell me if you have done this. When she left you, did you try to convince her, beg, threaten, tell the whole world, have a family meeting to fix it? Just be honest. If you have done it, just write done it in the comments. Let's be honest. You try to convince her, beg her, threaten, tell the whole world, have a family meeting. Have you done any one of those things? Maybe not all of them, but at least one of them. Write done it in the comments. And the next question is, does this work? Convincing your spouse, begging her to come back, threatening her with something, telling the whole world about her, or having a family meeting. Does this work to bring back love? Yes, no. Just write in the comments. And I'll tell you why not. Why this doesn't work. First tell me, have you done it? Yes, no, and then I'll tell you why this doesn't work. Does it work? Yes, no? Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. The question is, why not? The question is, why not? Why this doesn't work? When you try to convince your partner why she doesn't understand you, when you beg her, fall on your feet, why doesn't she understand? When you threaten, tell the whole world, have a family meeting. And then what happens many a times is she blocks your number. She blocks you on social media. She blocks you on WhatsApp. She doesn't want to talk to you. You know why? Because all these things are not loving. By doing these things, you're telling her that I don't love you. As simple as that. I don't love you. And you might be surprised, like, how come? Like, I fell on my feet and told her to come home because I love her. No, you don't love her. You think that you love her, but you don't love her. If you loved her, you would have said, you stay as long as you want. I'll work on myself. I'm going to be the wonderful man I can be. And when you see the changes in me, come home. She going away is her need, because she felt so hurt that she could not stay there and she went away. And if you really loved her, you would have said, that's fine. That's fine. You know, if she has blocked you, then why did she block you? Did she say to herself that, okay, now I'm going to block my husband? No. What you did was this. Your need was to talk to her. Her need was not to talk to you. And you put your need before her need. Her need was not to talk to you. Your need was to talk to her. So you put your need before her need. And you called her up. And when she didn't pick up the call, you called her up again. You called her up again. When she blocked you, she started sending messages. When she blocked your messages, you started writing on Facebook. When she blocked that, emails. When you blocked that, why did this happen? Because you put your need before her need. And what did she do? She put her need before your need. I remember in our relationship, especially before we got married, it was a long distance relationship for more than a decade. And there were times where I did not want to talk to Pallavi. Maybe I was too upset. I didn't want to. And imagine this. If she incessantly asked me, why are you not talking to me? Why are you not talking to me? Why are you not talking to me? What do you think I would have done? I would have blocked her. And there were times Pallavi did not want to talk to me. And if I kept calling her up, she would have blocked me. But for whatever reason, I had the good fortune of learning things. I had invested in personal development, that I realized that that is the worst thing I could do. So when she said, I don't want to talk to you, I said to her, now that's painful, but that's fine. If that's what's going to help you, then okay. Let's not talk. And when you feel like talking to me, you just give me a call. Let's talk. Wow, that was amazing. Because that made her feel that for him, I am more important than himself. And when we feel that, gentlemen, that changes us. That changes us. Isn't it true? Just think about yourself. If your wife puts you before her, won't you feel really loved? Just write feel loved in the comments. Feel loved in the comments. That's how we are. That's how we are. So when you try to convince her, you're telling her that, my need is more important than your need. When you beg her to come back, what you're doing actually is you're using emotional blackmail to force her to fulfill your need. Whatever your need is, probably to appear, to avoid embarrassment. Maybe there are people around you saying, Ray, this fellow's wife went off 3 months ago and she's not coming back. And that's your need, not to get embarrassed. And you put that need before her need. And when you told, let's have a family meeting, and what happened there? In that family meeting, she tried to convince you that why she shouldn't come back. And you tried to convince her why she should come back. And whenever somebody tries to convince us, the person we don't feel loved by, we don't listen to that person. Doesn't matter who that person is. Unless that person is our boss or we are a small kid and it's our mother telling us. Apart from that, we don't listen to that person. Is that making sense to you? Just write true in the comments if I'm making sense. So don't waste your time in doing this. This is shouldn't do. The third thing, sorry, these are the two shouldn't do's. Let's come to the should do's. The first should do is make a strong commitment to love your wife the way she wants to be loved. To love your wife the way she wants to be loved. So look at the first one, to make a strong commitment. If marriage was easy, rather, I'll put it this way. Marriage is easy, by the way. Marriage is easy. But getting the marriage on track after that, the things that go wrong, which is supposed to go wrong in a marriage, okay, don't get it wrong that only your marriage is going through this trouble and no other marriages have gone through this. No, every marriage has to go through a rough patch. And most of the marriages don't recover from a rough patch. In fact, I talk about it in detail on a Saturday night when I do a masterclass. So if you are interested in attending that masterclass, and that's an opportunity for you to take this whole journey forward. So if you're interested in attending that masterclass, it is go to coachval.co. If you have not signed up, go there and sign up. I think most of you have signed up. So the first thing should do is make a strong commitment. That means I am going to love her the way she wants to be loved. That's the only way. Love is the only way to have an awesome marriage. That's the only way. Ask me why. Ask me why. And probably just write why in the comments. I'll tell you. Probably there is nobody till today has told you that love is the only way. When you went to your dad or your mom, they told you everything. You should talk to our mother, you should convince her, you should tell her, all those things. But except they telling you that you should love her and put her first. Am I right? Write true in the comments if you agree with me. Nobody teaches us that love is the only way. But in fact, love is the only way. So there are two types of things we can divide. All right. One is, if you look at what are the things you want. You want understanding, you want love, you want care, correct? And can you get these by not giving it? It's like, I want mangoes. I want to have a mango orchard, but the seeds I'm planting are the neem seeds. Can you get mangoes by planting neem seeds? You can't. So if you're not loving, then you cannot have love in your relationship. And that was the biggest lesson I learned. That the only way Pallavi is going to love me is when I love her. So every morning, I should ask myself, what is the way I can love Pallavi? That's it. Should I wash those vessels? Will that make her feel good? Should I clean the house? Will that make her feel good? Should I buy something? Will that make her feel good? And when that happens, the other person also becomes loving. And then what happens is it becomes what's that thing? It goes like this in the park, seesaw. It becomes a seesaw. You don't know who's pushing who. It goes like this. And there's a movement. And then you ask yourself, how did that happen? Like, one of the best marriages I've seen is my sister and brother-in-law. And I've seen very few marriages like that. And I ask her, keep asking her, like, why do you take care of the house so much? Why do you work so much? And she says, you know what? Your brother-in-law really loves me. That's what she says. And then she gives me 101 reasons why she should be putting so much effort into the house. Imagine that. And what are those 101 reasons? Not about, he has convinced her to do. It's not about he telling her to do. It's not about how good he is in explaining things to her, why she should do all those things. Not at all. It's about he doing the cooking. It's about he taking that extra trouble when she's sick. It's about he telling her, you can sleep today and I'll do the work. Are you getting it? Just write getting it in the comments. This is the only way, gentlemen. This is the only way. And you would realize it by now that somewhere along the way, you stopped loving. You stopped loving and started doing everything else. Convincing her, telling her, being defensive, whatever. But stopped loving. So make a strong commitment to love her the way she wants to be loved. Now, there is something more that I want to share out here. It's not loving your partner the way you want to be loved. It's the way she wants to be loved. I'll give you an example. If you are a kind of person who loves going out, loves going for parties, loves going to 5-star hotels, loves going to movies, you start thinking that that is the way to love my wife, because that's the way I like. That's the way I want to be loved. But what about her? Is that the way she wants to be loved? The way we want to be loved depends on our personality type. And in fact, the people who are going through the coaching program that I help them to go through, because it is a journey, they spend about 20 days learning about the way their partner wants to be loved. And there's a system to understand it, because if you go to your partner and ask your partner, what is the way you want to be loved? She'll not know. Because many times we don't know the way we want to be loved. It's just that we get angry when we are not loved that way. So there's a system to understand. There's a personality profiling tool you can learn to understand this, to love your partner. Now, imagine that your partner, you like to be loved that way, going out, watching movies. So what do? That every week you bring 2 tickets for movies, you reserve 2 seats in the restaurant, the best restaurant in town, and you say to your wife, let's go today. And she says, okay, let's go. And you go. He's not really excited like you are. And you get upset. I'm doing this. I'm taking this extra trouble to take her for the movie. I'm spending this extra money for the restaurant, and she's not at all excited. And you wonder, have you done that? Just write in the comments, I have. If you have done something really loving for your spouse and your spouse just ignored it, just write, it has happened, or I have done that. And then I'll explain to you why. You have done that, right? And she has cared a damn about it. It's because probably her way, the way she wants to be loved is keeping the house clean. Probably, I'm just giving an example. You got to learn this whole system to understand exactly about your wife. But I'm giving an example of this. Probably the first thing and the foremost way she wants to be loved is keeping the house clean. That's the way. So if the house is clean, after that you take her for the movie, after that you take her for the restaurant, then she will enjoy it. But if you don't keep the house clean, if you throw the socks around or the towel around and you take her for the movie, it means nothing. Because for her, she's saying in her mind that my fundamental needs are not taken care of. And what's the big deal with this? What's the big deal? I want him to keep the socks here and the towel there, and he doesn't do it. And he takes me for a movie. What's the big deal? Is that a revelation? Just write true or revelation in the comments. So make a strong commitment to love her way. And if you are there for a masterclass, I'm going to talk about this in the masterclass. It's happening on Saturday at 9 p.m. Indian time. The second should do is, if you are separated right now, to write an apology letter. Apology letter. Why apology letter? That is the place to start. And I'm not saying that you should give that letter immediately. What I'm saying is, I want you to sit and write, where did I go wrong in this whole journey? And once I write that apology letter, then you should apologize without expectation. Without expectations. It's not that she will, as soon as you apologize, she'll say, oh, so nice to hear that, thank you very much for your apologies. Let's go home and live happily ever after. No, because those hurts are very deep. And those hurts will not go away. And especially the times you are not there when she needed you the most. Those hurts that were created will not go away. And what are those times? When she was most vulnerable. Think about a time where she was really vulnerable. Probably it was time of childbirth. Probably it was some sickness. Probably she had just lost her job. Probably somebody had said something to her. Probably it was your mother. It was your mother who belittled her. Not that your mother wanted to belittle her, but there are things happens. This stuff happens, and those times probably you were not there, because we are not, as men, we are not comfortable with pain. We want to fight pain, isn't it? Isn't it? Just write fight pain in the comments. We fight pain. Instead of embracing it, instead of accepting it, I belong to the same category. Unless I didn't realize this, I would have been the same. Instead of embracing it, instead of problem solving it, instead of accepting it, instead of embracing it, instead of accepting it, we either problem solve it or we push it away. So when your wife came to you, when your mother said something, and you said, oh, forget about it, she keeps talking about it, why are you worried? And you started solving a problem. How? That's the hurt, boy. That's the hurt. So apologize without expectations. But the fact that you have apologized, you have started the journey. But apologizing is not at all easy. Not at all easy. Because there are 101 things, 110 things which will run through your mind about, if I apologize to her, what will happen? I'll appear vulnerable. She'll say, see, finally you realized your mistake. That's humiliating. Now that's where I need courage. I need courage to apologize. And why am I saying apologize without expectations? Is because if you work on this assumption of, if I give, I'm going to receive, then things don't fall in place. And that's the reason many a times rich people, not all of them, but a lot of rich people give so much to charity without expecting anything back. And they get much more. And there's a law that works. Where we give without expecting, we get it back. We get it back. The third should do is work on yourself. Work on yourself. It means become a loving man. And becoming a loving man is not easy. Let me repeat that. Becoming a loving man is not easy. Because, how many of you agree with this? Write agree in the comments. If you don't agree, ask me why. If you agree with what I'm saying, that becoming a loving man is not easy, write agree. If you don't agree with it, ask me why. So, Becoming a loving man is not easy because our brain constantly makes us full of ourselves. And we don't even realize that we are making a fool of ourselves in the presence of our brain. Fundamentally, our brain does not want to change our habits. It doesn't want us to be different than what we were yesterday. So when you say to yourself, let me use my left hand for brushing, your brain will say, are you stupid? Your right hand is good, use it. Why does the brain say that? Because brain changing something takes energy, and our brain is wired not to use too much energy. So when you are following habits, the consumption of energy by the brain is very little. And why does our brain doesn't want us to use that energy? Why does it want us to use minimum amount of energy? That's again evolution. In the past, for thousands of years, we used our leg and hands, we used our limbs to work, to get our food, get the shelter. It's just that in the last 50 years, we use our brain to get our bread and butter. Am I right? So for the last thousands of years, we used our hands and legs. That means if our brain consumes a lot of the energy, then where's the energy left for working? Correct? So the brain is programmed to use the minimum amount of energy so that rest of the energy is used for working. That's the reason our brain hates us changing. So what will happen and what happens if you don't learn, if you don't have a supporting system, is your brain keeps giving excuses. And I'll tell you some of the excuses. The first excuse, you would have noticed it. I have changed so much and my wife is not changing. And you ask yourself, if your brain tells you, I have changed so much and my wife is not changing, then you ask yourself this first question. Have I changed the way I wanted to change, or have I changed the way she wanted me to change? That is the first question. The second question is, have I been consistently being a new person, loving person? That means if I'm married for 8 years, in order to change that 8 years of habit of unloving, I got to be consistent in loving for at least 8 months. Then things have changed. If we were married for 10 years and for the last 9 years we had been arguing, fighting, and there was no love, and I changed for 2 weeks, nothing changes because we are habituated with each other. Our brains have got habituated. So work on yourself, become a loving person. Thing you should do is, if you're separated, find ways to show love. Find ways to show love. And it's not about only showing, but it's loving. So ask yourself, if you're separated, ask yourself, in this situation, what is the most loving thing to do? Put yourself in her place. She doesn't want to talk to me. Can I tell her, that's fine. When you want to talk to me, talk to me. I'll be there. And with love, not with anger. With love, can I tell her that? She doesn't want to sleep with me. Like, if you're separated, that question doesn't come up. But there are people who are watching this where you're together, but she doesn't want to sleep with you. You tell her that, okay, you don't want to sleep with me, that's fine. And with love, with love. Yeah. That's the only way. If you had done this, your wife wouldn't have left you. I guarantee that. Especially that during that difficult time, if you had done this, she wouldn't have left you. The second thing is, if she has blocked you, communicate the same. Not with anger, not with anything else. And you keep thinking about, how can I let her know that, I really genuinely love her. The fifth should is be consistent. There is nothing that works without consistency. And that's the reason many people ask me, can you give me a call? Can you give me a phone number? I want to talk to you. What are you looking for? Are you looking for a magic pill? There is no magic pill. If you had a fight, the first fight you had was yesterday, then today you call me up and say, that was the first fight we ever had in our marriage. Can you help me out? Probably somebody can. But if you're fighting for the last 6 months, 8 months, 8 years, 10 years, you want to fix your marriage over a call, that doesn't work. And if anybody tells you that, don't listen to them. It cannot work. What works is creating positive habits and sticking to them. And when I say habits, you creating positive habits. And for creating positive habits, positive loving habits, you got to need two things. One, you got to learn how to do them. The second thing, you got to be consistent. That means you got to have a support of a group. So when I work with people, that's the way I work. I'd say, are you serious? Yes. Let's start with some fundamental stuff. And then I say, every week, let's connect. And then I say, learn a few more things, and then let's talk about how do you bring love. So I work with somebody in a consistent manner over a period of months. Then only things change. So if you are in my inner circle and you're thinking about, should I go to level 2? This is the time, guys. If you're not in my inner circle, get into the inner circle. And Saturday is the day to do that, because it's not for everybody. It's not every day that I allow people to get into the inner circle. It's only on Saturdays at 9 o'clock. So that's fifth one. The sixth one is, this is an important one. If you ever have to lose your wife, that means if your wife has to part ways with you, ever that happens, lose her through love, not through hatred. Can you please write in the comments, lose her through love? You can write LHTL. Lose her through love. I'll explain what that is. Not through hatred. What do I mean by lose her through love? It means that you become a really loving person. And in spite of that, she says, I don't want to live with you. I want to move on. You just let her go. You will be blessed with an awesome, awesome person. And when I say awesome person, why? Because you have become so loving. You have become so loving. So when the next person ever, if it happens, and if the next person comes in, you are a totally different man. You are a totally different man. Remember the story I told you? So what it means is this, and I mean it, guys, I mean it. It means that you love your partner so much that if she wants to leave you, you tell her, you may, because I love you. And if that is more important for you, and if that helps you to become a better person, that's fine. Move on. What are you doing in this? You're putting her before you. You're putting her needs before you. Now, I'm not, hoping, or I'm just hoping and praying just the opposite, that she comes back to you. But if you want her to come back to you, this is the attitude you need to have. That means if I ever lose her, I lose her through love. I love her so much that I let her go. And there is a saying that often we have heard, that if you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was. I believe that's how a relationship is. If you see pets, you see two kinds of pets. One are the pets that are put in a cage. And those pets cannot leave because there is a cage around. Good point, Lee. My question is, it's not about leaving her. Listen to the next part that I'm going to say. So you can put a cage. There are two types of pets you can have. The first type of pets are pets put in a cage. And these pets can't leave because they are put in a cage. So the reason for putting them in a cage is because if they leave them, they'll go. They're so expensive. Um, all those reasons. And there are second kind of pets people have. And the second kind of pets are not put in a cage, but they don't leave. You know why? Because they feel loved in that place. Now, even the animals understand. I saw this beautiful video, and just to connect with this, is she has a sparrow. That's just a video, okay? 20 seconds. She has a sparrow in her hand. All right. The sparrow is sitting there and nuzzled in her hand. And what she does is, she does that. She throws the sparrow up, and the sparrow flies and then comes back and sits in her hand. She throws it up. The sparrow flies up, takes a turn, comes back and sits in her hand. Throws it up, comes back and sits in her hand. What do you understand by that? What do you understand by that? The reason that sparrow wants to stay with that lady is not because that sparrow is put in a cage. It's because that sparrow really loves the company of that lady. Whatever reason. Whatever reason. So what kind of relationship that you want? Do you want to put your wife into a cage and keep her there because of this reason, this reason, this reason, this reason? Or you create that home in your house that's so loving, that's so caring, that she doesn't want to leave. And the reason she's not leaving is not because she has a daughter to take care of, not because of society, not because of religion, because she's madly in love with the man that she had married. Is this easy? No. That's why we need support. That's why we need somebody to walk with. That's the whole idea of having this inner circle where people who are really serious learn things, get into the inner circle, and every week I walk with them. Because it's not at all easy. But is it worth it? I'll say 1,000 times it's worth it. Once you get into mature love stage, once you feel comfortable in each other's presence, once you create that deep friendship, wow, that's heaven. That's heaven. You feel that I can conquer the world. And I'm telling you from my personal experience. There are days you will have deep sadness. Probably you are, sunk in sadness. I won't call it as depression, but sadness. You are upset about your work. You're upset about things not going right out there. You don't know how to pay your bills. You have all those thoughts. But there's one more thought at the back of your mind, that there is somebody in my house who will stand by me no matter what. And that thought keeps you going. That thought helps you to get up in the morning. Because you know, at the end of the day, I have one more human being who loves me very dearly. There's one more human being who supports me with a life. And this kind of a relationship will not happen without me putting in those efforts. Will not happen. Marriage is never 50-50. It takes two to go to, what's that thing? It takes two to tango. It means it takes two people to make the marriage miserable. That's what it means. But it takes only one person to turn the marriage around. Turn the marriage around. That's the power. That's the power that each one of us hold. And the only way to turn our marriage around is through love. And not any kind of love that we had when we were during a romance stage. It's a mature kind of love. When I'm loved for who I am, when I feel loved for the person that I am, negative, irritating, aggressive, nagging, whatever, what happens to me is I become beautiful. And you would have heard this thing about kissing the frog, right? The story of kissing the frog. What is it about? It's about I could be really ugly, but when you kiss me, that is a sign of love. It transforms me as a human being. Kiss is a very intimate thing. So when you kiss me, in other words, when you love me, just the way I am, maybe I'm a frog right now. Because of all that has happened, I'm a frog. And when you kiss me, I change, I transform. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here. What I would like you to do is write in the comments, what's the one thing that you learned? What's the one thing or two things that you learned? And as I'm ending, if you're really serious about your marriage, if you're really serious about bringing back love, no matter where it is at this moment, if there is no understanding, there is no care, you're living in the same house like roommates, or you're separated at this moment, and you're really serious about it, then I want you to strongly invite you for the Saturday masterclass that I'm doing at 9 o'clock. If you're on this group, I'll put the link out here. The masterclass does not happen on Facebook Live, it happens on Zoom. So I'm going to share the link with you. Be there for that masterclass, and from there, I'll guide you. The journey from where you are to where you want to be is through love. So there are no manipulation, no techniques to convince her, nothing. There are only techniques and tools that I'm going to teach you to love her more. And when you love her more, there's transformation. If there was anything else, you would have known by now from all the people that you know. There is nothing else. So thank you very much. Write in the comments what you learned, and God bless you. It was a wonderful, wonderful session. 1 hour, 15 minutes. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you on Saturday for the masterclass. Take care. Write in the comments. I would love to read your comments. And thank you very much for being so supportive with your comments, ideas, thoughts. God bless you, each one of you. And let's keep our love story alive. And it's really, really worth it. Bye-bye.